episode 242, the Napa Valley Marathon with the overall winner, Sam Long. Welcome to the pursuit of the perfect race. I'm Coach Terry Wilson, and with each episode, I bring stories of athletes to you that share their experiences at races in order for you to learn how to have your perfect race. You'll hear stories from athletes of all ages, abilities, and races of all distances. So regardless of where you fit in, there's something in it for you. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let the pursuit begin. Hey everybody, welcome back to the pursuit of the perfect race. Today I'm talking with Sam Long, the winner of the Napa Valley Marathon that took place on March 3rd, 2019, with a respectable time of 2 hours, 32 minutes, and 34 seconds, which is an average of 5 minutes and 49 seconds per mile on this point-to-point course. Welcome back to the show, Sam. I look forward to talking with you today, man.
Oh, it's stellar to be on, man.
Hey, so how are you feeling? I know we're talking on the day of the race, so it's a little odd to be doing this on the day of the race. I haven't done that yet. So how are you feeling, man?
Yeah, man. First, I'd just like to say I think it's great to do it the day of the race because, I've thought about it a little, but this way we're just getting everything out there raw, So there's no, I've thought about it and changed my mind. We're just getting my first initial impressions, which I think are really powerful. And I mean, I'm feeling worked, but mentally, dude, I'm on top of the world. Just on top of the world.
Yeah, I know you went to In-N-Out and you got some cheeseburgers and some shakes and whatnot. So how are you getting that in now?
Oh, I've just devoured it all. Yeah, 2 cheeseburgers, a milkshake, a large fries. You know me. I don't have any problem putting the food down.
Jeez, man. So just to kind of get started on this race, I know we talked a little bit about on the follow along series about your mindset, your life work training, and all that fun stuff. So we'll just really hop right into the race. When did you start traveling from the race? I know you had a little bit of logistical issues going from Colorado over to California, right?
Yeah, fairly simple. So I flew out on Thursday. Sorry, I flew out on Friday. Sort of Friday afternoon. My flight was at 1. And, of course, I was meeting my girlfriend here, and we flew into Sonoma County Airport. However, there was one little hitch on the way. My flight got canceled.
Did they say why it got canceled?
They didn't really give a reason. I honestly think they canceled it because it wasn't full enough, so they canceled it for, financial purposes and then just screwed the passengers over.
Oh, man. So what ended up happening? How did you end up getting there?
So I ended up flying down into Oakland, and then my wonderful girlfriend, who actually flew into Sonoma and landed a few hours before me, then drove all the way down to Oakland to get me. So the airplane screwed me, and my girlfriend saved me. Wow.
So what did y'all do once you got to the airport? Y'all headed up to Napa Valley for the registration, the expo, and whatnot. I know you've done plenty of Ironman races in bigger venues, but what was this event like from that aspect, like the registration, expo, and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, it was pretty good. So we stayed a little bit out of town and, just out of where the expo and main everything was, about 20 minutes away. So we just kind of had our own little secluded place, and we drove in, and actually I thought it was a really good idea. We ran the last mile and the half of the course the day before as our pre-race run, and then back so we could see what the final little bit was and just have that in our mind visually for the hardest part of the race. And the expo was a little bit, I mean, it was fairly low key, I'd say. I mean, crowded, but it was efficient and quick, and nothing over the top, but nothing too simple. It was very classy.
Nice, because this is a field of about 1,700 athletes, I think, right?
Yep, that sounds right about right.
Okay. So I know we talked a little bit about kind of offline about what you wanted to do going into this race. How are you feeling going into this race?
Yeah, I was feeling good. So things definitely started to come around. This week I still ran, counting the marathon, I think I'm at 57 or 58 miles for the week. So I ran 30 miles this week before the race. So, I mean, it wasn't a massive taper, and I swam every day from Monday through Friday. So I still got 5 swims in, and then just 1 bike ride and 1 strength workout. and it was kind of front loaded. So my Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday were still decent. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday saw me really rest. And I found my legs really came around. And the only little hitch was my quads got really, really sort of knotted up and tight on the day before the race. I woke up and it was like I was going on my pre-race run and it was like, whoa, these are really tight. So then I just rolled them out and then, had no issues with them on today. So everything really came together well. And usually it doesn't quite come together that well. I'm usually feeling something's not good. So I guess the coaching was just spot on.
Wow. So you travel with the foam roller then?
Oh yeah. I'm a big friend with the foam roller.
Good. So what about from a nutrition standpoint? Were you wanting to get certain meals in the day before the race? Get sleeping in? What does this look like?
Yeah, so we slept in. I slept 11 hours the night before the race, which is generally what I always do. I went to bed I didn't actually get a super early bedtime that night. You have to remember, me and my girlfriend, we haven't seen each other for like a few weeks, so we weren't this is 2 nights before, So we went to bed. We were asleep by 11, and then we actually slept till 9:45 that morning. So still plenty of sleep, And then nutrition, I go gluten-free the day before, had yogurt for breakfast, and then lunch was sort of rice with falafel balls and some cucumbers, and then dinner was gluten-free mac and cheese.
Nice. So still getting the carbs in, just not the gluten.
Yep, absolutely. Pretty heavy on the carbs, and lunch is actually the main meal for me that day. So lunch has the most calories. I added up the calories for me at lunch were it was 1,200 calories that I ate at lunch.
Wow. So you are the day before the race, which was yesterday. This is so weird because I'm not used to saying it like yesterday. But
I know.
Yesterday, were you like wanting to lay out your stuff a little bit? I know I saw your Instagram and Amy's Instagram, and it was basically you didn't know what to wear. You had to ask some people. Yeah,
we had a fun time with it. And if you've been following on Instagram, you know what I mean by we had a fun time with it. I'd say I had a decent idea what I wanted to wear. I was actually torn. So it was between the shorts were the same. I've got my lucky pair of running shorts is what I call them. They're these really short cut blue shorts. And every time I've ran in them, I've only actually run in them about 5 or 6 times because I only run them when I'm like, I'm going to have a great run. And then when I'm like, oh, I need to go have a great run, now I put them on and I have a great run. So it's sort of this like psychological thing for me. So I knew exactly what shorts I was wearing and shoes. And then it was just between 2 tops. I was going to wear a tank top, a bright pink tank top, which I quite like, or I was going to wear sort of this man bra, which I also quite like. And overall, I actually thought the pink top looked maybe a little bit more classy, but I went with the man bra for a functional reason, believe it or not. The man bra for me, I really like because I can stuff gels in there and I don't have to hold them in my hands. And then it's like a kangaroo pouch. Then I just reach in and I take it out and I've got my gels.
Right. Now, this is the same man bra that you wore up at Whistler last year, right?
Correct. Yep.
Wow. So going into this race, you were able to lay out all this fun stuff. Like, man, I'm still getting confused because I'm like, thinking yesterday and today. I'm not used to that at all. This is so weird for me. So today, what time did you actually get up and get ready? Did you sleep good?
Yes, we slept really well. So we were in bed at 8:30, and granted, we didn't go to sleep at 8:30. We read for about an hour, and then like lights off were at 9:30, and slept. I fell asleep right around 10, so 10 until I woke up at 4:55 just naturally. My alarm was set for 4:57, so quite perfect. That's 7 hours of sleep, just about, which is actually more than I almost always get the night before a race. And then went on from there.
Okay, so this is a point-to-point race. Did y'all stay near the finish or near the start?
We're closer to the finish.
Okay, so how did y'all work out the logistics? Because both of you are running, but y'all have to get to the start line, and then you have to get to the finish line, but you're staying by the finish line, so that's easy. But you have to worry about the logistics of getting to the start line, right?
Yeah, so they have shuttle buses. We could either catch shuttle buses sort of from right near our hotel or at our hotel, but we opted for driving to the finish line, and then we drove from we took a shuttle bus from the finish line, and that way then when we finished, our car was right there. You know, it was 2 blocks from the finish line.
Okay. So you didn't have to really worry too much about getting back to your car because it's just right there.
Absolutely. And it was a good thing because they gave me like 15 bottles of wine. So
they gave you wine?
Correct. Yeah. So for winning, I won like this giant bottle of wine, which has to be like, has the volume of like 4 regular bottles of wine. And then I won a select case. So 12 bottles of wine from Napa Valley. So, lugging that, I was really glad our car wasn't any farther away.
So now I know we're going to get way too ahead of ourselves, but how are you going to get all that back home?
I still have to do some research, but I believe I can just check it on my flight as checked baggage.
Yeah, but aren't you going to worry about it breaking?
Yeah, I'll have to sort of mark it as fragile, or it seemed to come in a pretty sturdy case. The case seems quite sturdy.
Okay, man. So this morning you got up at 4:55, breakfast and morning ritual before you actually leave. Are you applying like Body Glide to your feet, thighs, all this? What's going on this morning?
So no Body Glide or anything was applied. I basically had a quick breakfast, and then I foam rolled for a little bit and did a few little stretches. And I mean, to give you an idea, we woke up at 4:55 and we left our hotel at 5:20. So we weren't really hanging out, you know, and that involves like 2 or 3 bathroom breaks. So it was just pretty go and then get out of here.
Okay. How are your nerves at this point?
You know, I was actually pretty calm. I was pretty calm and steady. I actually almost had more nerves like early on in the week. I found myself like earlier on in the week, I was up kind of, I'd go to bed and I'd be up for an hour sort of visualizing the race. And so I think I had kind of thought through every possible scenario. So it was just like what I was prepared. So I was going and whatever's going to happen has happened. And I was more excited than nervous.
What were you most excited about? Is this your first stand-alone marathon?
I've done one other. Just excited, you know. I love racing. I love giving it all out there, and I haven't done that since October at Xterra Maui, where my back gave out, and it was just this really long grind and really painful. And this was like, it was totally painful, but it was like the effort was at least matched up with the speed for me. You know, like at Maui, I was going all out and I was running like 12-minute miles because my back was out. And here it was like, okay, I was going hard, but I'm running 5:40 miles.
Right. So you get down to you leave the hotel, you get down to the start line. What's the atmosphere like down there with Amy? Or did y'all separate at some point, or did y'all start at the same time? What's this like?
We stayed together, man. And here's the coolest thing about me and Amy is I've got this portable speaker that I bring, and whenever we're together at races, we love to just sort of bump the music and kind of dance ourselves. And sometimes people join. No one joined today, but we're just playing a bunch of tunes and me and her are dancing and we're just having a real fun, light time, you know?
Man, it's pretty fun, man. So what is notable about this start line at Napa Valley this morning? So
here's a few things I'll mention if someone's going to be doing this race is first off, when you catch the buses, and this drove me crazy, they only say what time they start at and they don't say what time they end at, or any other details. And I asked like 7 or 8 people at registration, well, what time does it, I know what time the buses start, but when's the last bus, you know, just because I want to be sure that I'm not showing up too late. And the buses start at 5:30. And so I was like, well, what time? Do they only go till 5:45? And the funniest thing was everyone treated me like I was like a second-class citizen or something. They're going like, oh, why do you care so much? Like, don't be lazy. Like, you don't need to, like, just get out of bed. You can sleep on the bus. And I'm like, I'm not asking out of laziness. I'm asking so I don't miss the bus. But so that was actually a little bit irritating. But anyways, the buses start at 5:30, and I think they run till about 6:15 or 6:30. But it's not like on an Ironman bus. If people have done this, like you usually get there and they load people on to the front bus, and then that bus leaves like right away. Here it was like they had like a line of a whole number of buses, and we got on the bus at 5:50, and then before the bus left, we sat on the bus for 30 minutes.
What?
Yeah, so it then didn't leave till 6:20. And then what was interesting is that instead of filling up one bus at a time, they filled up all the buses at the same time, and then all of the buses left at the same time.
So logistically, that's not really smart.
No, I thought it was kind of weird, and then so I think they left. I mean, we left at 6:17 to be precise. And I think they maybe left like one bus around if you came late, and that bus maybe left at like 6:30 or 6:40, and you got to the start line like a minute before starting. And so then the bus ride was about 30 minutes. Well, actually it was more like 40 minutes because we got off the bus at about 7:03, which the race started at 7:30, so that gave us 27 minutes. So anyways, that's just sort of a logistical thing, which I think they could certainly improve. And then basically we spent 15 of those minutes in the Porta-John line. And by the time I got out of the Porta-John, it was 7:25. So then I had 5 minutes. I went and I dropped my bag off, and I jogged to drop my bag off, and that was my warm-up jog. It was 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then I got in line and started 2 minutes later.
Wow, so you didn't really have any time to compose yourself or really get in the zone. You were like almost rushed because of the bus's situation.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, thankfully you have a bus ride, so I sort of got in the zone. I used that time to get in the zone as opposed to once I was there, just in case something like that happened, which it did.
Okay. So for this marathon, music or no music?
No music. I never really run with music unless if I'm on the treadmill, and just as same with an Ironman, they don't let you. So I don't like to get too used to running with music outside. And I hate. I mean, let's be real. I'm the type of guy who wore a man bra because I'm concerned about the extra weight of material of a full tank top. So there's no way I'm carrying a 1/4 pound iPod with me.
True. Man. So you get there to the start line right before the gun goes off 2 minutes later. What is it like in the corral with everybody around you? Did you kind of take a minute and look around and measure up your competition, or did you just say, well, whatever, I'm here, I'm just gonna do my own thing? What's that like?
Yeah, I was so rushed, I didn't really have time. I mean, by the time I made my way up to the front of the corral, they had already finished the national anthem, and they go 90 seconds till starting. And then I realized, I need to take my pre-race goo. So then by the time I took my pre-race goo, they go 30 seconds to go time. So I had 30 seconds to check out the competition.
Wow. So the gun goes off. I know your first mile is 5:56, then 5:41, then 5:40. So you kind of ease into your race pace overall. How are these miles? What is the atmosphere? What is the competition looking like? Where are you lining up? Are they going off too fast? What's this like?
So first off, here's what I think also happened at this race. And I've collaborated with a few other people, is I think they accidentally started the race start about 300 meters back from where it was supposed to be. So, because what happened, and if I look at my Garmin, if I look at my, well, not my Garmin, if I look on Training Peaks and I look at Strava, and I actually obviously have a Sunto, then what happened, the total distance for me was 26.49 miles. So I ran almost a whole extra third of a mile. And all of this happened within the first mile. So my first mile on my Sunto read as I think 5:32. And then it was like, whoa, there's a whole nother like minute just to get to where the mile marker was. And my watch, like I have the absolute top of the line watch, so I don't think my watch would have been off by 300 meters in the first mile. Wow.
Because I'm looking at your splits right now, just for measurement, the ones that you put up on Strava, and that's what I was going off of.
Yeah, absolutely. anyways, so it was a little complicated, but what happened, and maybe I'm wrong. I don't know how they always measure these. I know that they usually take the tangents, but I also did my best to take all the tangents. But anyways, well, no reason to keep talking about that. The gun goes off. I find myself pretty much immediately in second place. I'm running with one other guy who's running right up next to me at first, and he looks over at me and he's like, "Oh, what pace are you trying to run?" And I said, "Oh, I think I can go right around 2:30." And he goes, "Oh, I'm trying to do 2:50 to 2:55." And I look at my watch. I'm like, at that moment we were running 5:30s, and I was like, this guy needs to slow down. Like, I need to slow down. 5:30s is too fast for me. And then he didn't, and he kept going with me till about a half mile, and then he just like totally blew up. It was kind of weird.
He was not running his smart race.
He ruined his race in the first kilometer. And so then how the race kind of started to shake out is, again, I was in second, and this first guy, I was like, maybe he's starting a little strong. My instructions were, do not start too fast. Like, against all things, do not start too fast. And I hadn't warmed up at all, really. So I was like, I'm definitely not going to go out in a 5:15 or 5:20. So I just sort of then started to settle in. I was kind of seeing, is a group going to form around me? Which it didn't. And then the pace sort of started to stabilize.
Wow. So what is the atmosphere like? I mean, were you able to see anything I know this is all in the wine country, right? So what was the atmosphere like there?
Oh, the scenery is beautiful here. I mean, really, really beautiful run. And it's the first 13 miles, the road is closed to traffic, so you can take up the whole road. It's just peaceful. It's wineries the whole entire way. Today it was overcast. The clouds were kind of really low, which being from Colorado where it's always sunny, I actually find that really beautiful. And it's just the clouds are forming over the wineries. There's sort of, I want to call them mountains, but big rolling hills kind of everywhere you look. It really, really beautiful. And yeah.
Man. So is this where, like, how close is this venue to Santa Rosa?
Close. Yeah, I think maybe 45 minutes apart.
Okay, so yeah, I was at Santa Rosa last year, so I'm trying to just mentally kind of get an idea of where this is.
Yeah, so Santa Rosa is just north of Napa.
Okay. So with all of this, did you have a strategy of what you wanted to do? You said you didn't want to go out too fast, but did you have splits that you wanted to hit? Did you know where the hills were? What's all this like?
Yeah, let's get into race strategy here, because race strategy was everything here. So my coach, Ryan Bolton, he coaches a squad of 6 to 8 elite marathon runners. You know, one of them's won the Boston Marathon. So when I'm talking to him, like, I can't be like, I know more than this guy. Like, I've got a lot of respect for that. And I go, this homie knows exactly what he's doing. So any advice he has for me, I'm like, I'll soak it up like it's water from God. And so the advice was two things. He said I can do about 550. He thought I could do 550 pace, which I did 549. So that goes to show how spot on he was. And he wanted me to start at 550, but at the same time, it was a double throng strategy. Don't go out of what your physiology tells you, but also do everything in your ability to win the race, right? So like, and let's say I had someone showed up who could run a 2:15 and they started out at 5-10 miles, and they ran that the whole way. I wouldn't have ever saw them. I wouldn't have ever ran with them, right? And so I kept telling myself, stay calm. And then the other two sort of mantras we had here were, the first 13 miles is a warm up and the halfway point is 20 miles.
Okay. So the first half is the warm up?
Correct. Yep. So 13.1 miles is nothing more than a warm up. You're still hitting your paces, but if it's feeling anything harder than a warm up, then you're going too hard, basically.
But you're going 550s for a warm up.
Correct. Through 13 miles, I ran 1:14:30. So I actually averaged 5:40 pace for the first 13.
Wow. And that didn't feel hard for you. That felt like a warm up pace?
Yeah, I mean, I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. So say like it's not an 8-minute mile warm up, but it's a steady, and essentially it I mean, from 10 to 13 started to feel more than a warm up, but especially the first 10 felt like a warm up.
Okay. And then after that, you actually wanted to start going for it? Is that the idea?
Nope. The idea, he told me not to go for it until 20 miles. No matter, not if I felt good, hold off till 20 miles.
Okay. And then that's whenever you could actually start getting after it a little bit.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Now, with that, how did miles, say, 4 through 10 go? Were you able to hold back a little bit and reserve yourself a little bit? At this point, is that when you started getting into first place? When did all this happen?
No, so I didn't get into first place until mile 24.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well,
yeah.
We'll get to that then.
And so we'll get to there then. But again, yeah, the first 10 miles was, I was all on my own, and the first place guy was putting about 10 seconds into me per mile. So I was running, again, I averaged 5:40 for the first 10. So he averaged 5:30 for the first 10 miles. And that's awesome. And I was just focused on trying to run smooth, on my technique cues, on not having too long of a stride, on breathing rhythm. I was mostly internally focused on making it smooth rather than fast. And the speed was just sort of a factor of, like, I wasn't going to run any faster than I could do, focusing on all of those internal cues that I had.
What cues do you know about?
So by cues is a little bit of a misleading word, but the things I were focusing on, and I'm calling these cues, were relaxed, steady breathing. So never being out of control, too laborious. And I wasn't wearing a heart rate monitor, but for me, that means having an awareness of how low or high my heart rate is. So when I come up on a hill, and if my heart rate starts to get higher and my breathing starts to get labored, I slow it down. While if I'm on downhill using that cue, I can pick it up a little bit if my breathing starts to come down a lot. And then another one of my cues is to be kind of quick and fast off my feet. So no sort of lumbering. And my other, there's actually a few number of other cues. And one is I don't like to use any fast twitch muscle fibers here for the first 20 miles. So, and what that means is you can kind of feel once you start getting on your toes, and if you're really moving your muscles forward and your legs and propelling them with a lot of momentum, you're digging into your type 2 muscle fibers. So I didn't want to use any of those until 20 miles. So if I could feel like, oh, I'm really having to push off here, then boom, the pace has to get slowed down immediately. And then the other thing is, just kind of quick feet. So my feet are going quick, and I'm not having to do this big lumbering charge.
Okay. So as far as these first 10 miles before you hit the half marathon point, you're keeping on these cues. You're not going up any of the heart rate, but you're maintaining like a good solid pace here. What is it like whenever you're in second place for this marathon? Because you haven't gotten first place in a marathon yet, but yet I know you got second at Louisville last year, but you were in first there for 20 miles, if I remember right.
Yeah, till 20 miles, and then I got past at 10K. So I wasn't trying to think too much about place. I mean, second was cool, and I probably would have been okay. I would have been happy, I suppose, with second. But I was like, I wanted to be in first, and so I was really also looking ahead and trying to see how far ahead is first, and is this going to be a distance that can maybe be passed? And a lot of times I actually didn't think it was, but I just had to say I have to do what's best for me at this point.
All right. Now, at some point during these miles right here, there was a little bit of a headwind, right?
Correct. Yeah. So what happened is, like I said, the first 10 miles were really smooth and easy. And then I want to say right at about mile 11 or 12 is right when the headwind started to pick up. And this wasn't like, a breeze, like a cooling off breeze. This was like a persistent headwind that never let up. So it really, then I started to actually have to put a little more force in. And now I'm at 10 miles. I'm committed to this pace. I don't want to have to slow down. So then I did start to actually, my breathing started to come up a little bit. I started to use a little more effort. So really, and I really wanted to try and negative split this marathon, which I didn't do since I did the first half in 1:14:30. I was about 2 minutes slower the second half. And honestly, I think the majority of that was just because of the headwind. I think the headwind equated to probably 3 minutes over the course of the second half. That's how strong this headwind was.
But now, if you take into account that you started 300 to 400 meters before you were supposed to, there's a little bit of time there, then it should equal out a little bit.
No, after we should have. Sorry. So we started behind where we should have, in my opinion.
Oh, so you didn't run far enough? Or you ran too much?
No, we ran too far.
Yeah, so that would equal out.
Not with the headwind as well, right? They're both slowing you down.
Right. So if you started where you were supposed to, you would have negative split because then that's some more time there. Or am I thinking about that wrong?
No, it would have been less time. My time for the first half should have been even faster than it was, I think.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So that would have put even more time in the first half. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I ran even faster for the first half and then just as slow, I guess, for the second half.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll sound like an idiot. Oh, well.
It's hard to think about that type of stuff.
Yes, it is. And I know this is like earlier this day for you. And I know you're mentally exhausted by now ish. I mean, you are a pro. I mean, y'all don't wear it down easy, right?
The only reason I know it is because I experienced it. So, like, if I was thinking about it theoretically, I would have absolutely no clue how to answer it. But since I was like, oh, I started early and I saw my watch taking more time, that's how I know.
Right. So what about a nutrition plan? What does this look like? Are you getting a goo every 40 minutes, every 30 minutes? What are you doing here?
Yep. So it was a goo every 5 miles roughly. And that was slightly flexible because I try to take the calories always in conjunction with water. So take the goo and then, within a quarter mile, I like to have water. So, and the aid stations were roughly placed out here. So it ended up being, I had a goo at 4.5, 9.5, 14.5. And again, in the ideal world, that was 5, 10, 15, but I was only off by a half mile. And then I had one at 19.5. And then at the end, I was like, I wanted to be sure I had the calories. So then I had one at 21 and 23.
Okay. So whenever you got to the halfway point at the half marathon mark, you hit 1:14 and some change. How are you feeling overall? Did you feel like the first half was a warm up like you wanted it to be?
Yeah, I was feeling decent. And the cool thing is that's actually, so that I had to really stop and check myself and check my mind, because when I came through, my first thought was, oh shit, oh crikey, that's a half marathon PR for you, which it was. That's way too fast. How can you possibly keep going after this? And then I just said, hold up. We're going to eliminate that negative thinking and reaffirm that to, wow, that's amazing. You just did a half marathon PR and you're going to run another 13 and just keep it going smooth. So I had to kind of check in. And by then, I mean, the legs were starting to feel something, but nothing major.
Now, that negative thought there, how were you able to just take hold of that and address that head on and kind of like go, whoa, Sam, hold on. Don't you think about that. You got to get that out of here. We're in the business of the rest of this marathon and not get all bent around the axle on this negative thought. How are you able to do that?
Oh, that's a really hard question. For me, it's almost, I've practiced that so much in my life, and I like to think that I'm actually really good at that like that whole process for me took less than 15 seconds. So I had that and I just went like, I don't know, there wasn't any turning of the screws. It was like almost like I'm having this thought and then I put it through the food processor or the thought processor, and then it came out refined as a positive thought and then as a reaffirming thought, and then it actually helped me improve my performance as opposed to hinder it.
How the heck do you do that so easy? Like, that's something that I even struggle with, and it's something that I've seen so many athletes through the podcast talk about how they can do this. I mean, I think the first time I heard this, it was with Joe Adrians from Everyman Jack, and he mentioned doing that at Ironman Texas, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty nifty. I like that. But now that here you are mentioning the same thing of holding this thought in your hand and putting it through your thought processor. How did you get good at this?
Oh, well, we might need a whole podcast on this, but I'll say two quick things about this. Is first, my mom is a clinical psychologist. She's got a PhD in psychology. And so ever since I first started, well, my entire life has been about the mind and psychology. And if you've spoken to me enough to understand that usually I'm checking in almost more so mentally than I am physically. And that was brought up ever since I've basically been born, is being aware of how other people are feeling. And in order to be aware of how other people are feeling, first you have to be aware of how you yourself are feeling. And then once I started sports, she actually sort of was my sports psychologist in middle school and high school. And it's this methodology called brain spotting. So I've done a lot of brain spotting. I served as as a student or their trial subject in this master's class brain spotting for peak performance with athletes. And the person who started it, his name's Dr. David Gray. He then did a few trials with me, and we did that in front of a few hundred people. And so I think with those two things, it's been a product of a lot of my life focusing on that.
Wow. Well, we'll have to do some more talking about that in the future, but we'll kind of go back to the marathon for now, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
that sounds like we could just go down a rabbit hole for days on that, because there's so many things I want to know about that. But, man, so you get to the halfway point, you have this negative thought, then you basically reassert that to a positive thought magically, like a unicorn, and then you go forward. What were the next few miles like? What's the atmosphere at the halfway point? What is all this feeling like and looking like?
Yeah, so there's a number of people at the halfway point actually cheering you on. So that was good. And I just went a few other thoughts I had were like, oh, that actually went pretty quick. Like compared to an Ironman marathon, I'm like halfway seemed to come, which it obviously does. It comes 15 minutes quicker, but in terms of effort, it feels like it actually comes like twice as quick. I'm like, oh, that's relatively quick. And I'm like, I've got, an hour and 15, hour and 20 left in this race. Like it's going to be hard for them, but that's something I can definitely focus on. And then actually there was another positive sort of thought, recreation or retransformation is, I mean, dude, this headwind was just, it was, I want to call it like, a bad word, but I'm just going to say that it was just terrible. And anyone who's ever ran in a headwind or biked in a headwind, like knows that wind has a way of just sapping your spirit, right?
It does.
It's like, it's an inherent quality of it. It just saps your spirit. And so I had to deal with that. And this one took me a little longer than the other one we were just talking about. But what I said is because when I first saw the guy in first place, like he was much skinnier and leaner than me, and he didn't look anywhere close to as muscular as me. So what I thought was that, oh, this headwind is turning it into a strength athlete's course, and that can only affect me positively. And this headwind is what's going to allow me to catch him. That's what I then started telling myself.
Wow. So you basically turned that win into your mental advantage.
Exactly. So then whenever the wind's blowing in me and I'm wanting to get mad, I'm going, I'm probably dealing with this wind better than him based off my body type and what my strengths are. And I can get mad at it. But if I'm running faster in him than in this headwind than he is, then that's actually a benefit to me.
Wow. So as far as your mentality, when was the first time that you actually saw him?
I could sort of see him. Well, I couldn't actually see him, but I could see where he was intermittently because, like, he had a bit of a police, motorcade with him, and one of the things had their lights on, and so, and of course, with it being point to point, there's most of the time it's kind of curving. So, he was a good almost a half mile ahead of me. So if it's curving, I couldn't see him, but every now and then you come and you can see like a half mile ahead, and I couldn't make out him, but I could see the siren going, and I went, oh, that's right about where he is.
Okay. So as far as miles 15 through 20, how was your energy overall? Because usually along these portions of the marathon, people start to dwindle down a little bit, and at 20, they hit the wall. Is this what you were experiencing?
Yeah, 15 through 20 were hard, and so then the other thing was that I grabbed 3 goos with me, and they were supposed to, and they might have had they two aid stations with gels, and I took my last one at 13 and a half, and then they were supposed to have one, I thought, at 14. And I think they might have, but like I was one of the first to come through, so they didn't even have the boxes out. So when I came through 14 and then I missed it, and it's not like, oh, I'm going to turn back and get my goo. I was like, oh, like, shoot, I just missed getting some more cap. And I was going to carry it for a mile and then take it around 15. So then 15 through 20 were kind of hard because I was going like, oh, what if the same thing happens at the next aid station? That means I'm not having a goo from mile 13 after mile 13 and a half. I'm like, that could be a recipe for disaster. And all they have is water at the aid station. So it's not like, oh, Coke. It's not like an Ironman aid station. So I just sort of kept that at the forefront of my mind and was like, okay, be sure you get one at the next. And then I just focused on really kind of trying to make things smooth. And then a lot more self-talk going on, specifically talking around 17 through 20. I started telling myself like, look, at mile 20 is when like you got to throw down like it's real. And just like if you're warming up and about to start an interval, like you're like, okay, I better make this warm up like really smooth and easy so that I can then do the interval hard. So that's what I was thinking. And then I was going like how it works. You hit mile 20 and I told myself like then 3 miles hard, like half mile cruise is what I was telling myself. And then you finish the rest of until the finish hard. And I just kept on telling myself that so that I'd be like prepared to do that. You know what I mean?
I do. Now, whenever you get to mile 20, that's when you can actually start turning it on. How are the hills at this point? Because we haven't even mentioned the hills yet, but there's about 750 feet of gain here, which isn't really that significant, but it's not a flat course.
Oh, it's not a flat course. And that really beats up your quads. And the other thing is, if you look at the course map online, how it's drawn, it looks like at 20 miles through the rest of the way, there's not a single uphill. I swear, that's how it's drawn. It looks like it's all downhill, actually, not even flat. It looks downhill. I think they like accidentally like got that drawn the wrong way because the final 10K from 20 miles onward actually feels like it's mostly uphill.
Really?
Yeah, like, and I don't think I'm just saying this because I just did it today and it was like the end of a marathon. Like, there are some significant uphill stretches in that final 10K.
So how long are these stretches?
Some of them, I'd probably say there were 3 primary ones if I remember it. And one's kind of, you go down and you take this, I think it's like a left turn. And actually that wasn't so bad because that was the only time you got out of the headwind because you're no longer facing it straight up. But that was sort of actually a steeper hill, but it was kind of shorter. It was about 400 meters and not too steep, but steep enough. And then you did another short downhill. And then right at about mile 22, you came up on what was about a mile and a half, all just no turn, just maybe like a 3% uphill, with a steady headwind.
Okay. Now I'm looking at your splits here and I see that mile 21, you hit a 5:29, which is your fastest mile of the day.
Yep.
So did you see that split come across at the end of mile 21?
Well, I saw that split come across at mile 21 and this is right after that split is basically when I make the pass. Is at mile, right? Cause mile 21 and that takes me to mile 22. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So, and I might have it off. 21 might have been a downhill and then right after that might have been the uphill. That might be more correct.
Okay. So what was it like making this pass?
So the pass was, this guy tells me, he goes, oh, you're 2 minutes down. And this was at like 20 miles. I'm like 2 minutes down with 10K. Like that's a lot to make up. But I just said anything can happen in the final 10K. And I know this
quite well from experience. I mean, Louisville, I get past it at, 32K with 10K to go by Chris Lieferman, and I lose the race, Ironman Whistler, I'm in third the entire day. I get passed with like less than 5K to go by Matt Russell. So I'm like, anything can happen. Like, you got to keep fighting. And I'm like, if he runs the same speed, like, he'll beat me. But if I'm picking it up about 5 seconds a mile. And if he slows down 10 seconds a mile, it'll be close. I might be able to get him, which when you look at it like that, like, oh, most people slow down 10 seconds a mile. So, and then he kind of starts to get in my view, and I start approaching on him. And from then it's like, you just build off that energy, and I'm going really hard. I mean, I'm digging really deep to pass him. And then when I pass him, he looks over and he sort of says, good job. And I'm like, at that moment, I'm in the competitor's vibe, I'm the animal trying to win this thing. And I didn't say anything. I just picked up the pace and actually went faster, You
just drove that point home.
I drilled that point home that, I'm here to win, and I'm not here to be a friend right now. Of course, afterwards, I wished him congratulations, and we talked quite a bit, and I'm a totally awesome guy, but just when I'm in the race, I'm an animal, I guess. So that was cool. And then actually, right after I passed him, I think it was really hard. He walked for about a minute or two, I think.
Really?
Before he could sort of get some rhythm going again.
Oh man, that's gotta be so hard to deal with mentally. It's like you led the race for 20-something miles and then you got past, then you walk, man.
Well, exactly. And at that point, like, you're pretty unlikely to pass this guy again, You know what I mean?
Yeah. Man. So if we kind of look at it at this point, how deep in the well did you actually push yourself?
All the way.
All the way?
Yep, as deep as I can go.
So you didn't leave anything out there at all then?
Nope, I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
I mean, let me put it this way. If there were, in the situation, I'd put it all out there. Let's put it like this and say I wasn't able to pass the guy until mile 25. Mentally, I probably would have dug deeper to get that, and say I then had to out sprint him. If that had been a situation, that would have been, I would have probably found it from somewhere within me to do that. But once I made the pass, and certainly then after like a half mile or a mile, and I look back and people are telling me like, oh, you've got 2 minutes on him already. Like, and the next person behind you is like another 6 or 7. And I've got, a mile and a half to go. Like, at that point, I was like, I wanted to go finish hard because like I wanted to have a really good time personally. But it wasn't quite the same where it's like, oh, if I don't do this, like, I'm not going to win the thing, So I definitely, and like my last mile or 2 miles shows that if you look at the Strava, I think I was like 6:10, which was my slowest mile by a lot. So that was, but it was also for me, I was like, oh, crikey. Like, I'm looking at my watch and I'm like, I'm already at 26.2 and I'm still running,
I mean, I think what you were doing at this point, you were trying to absorb this moment because you know that this was going to be a win.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, this is going to be a win. And at that moment, I'm going like, the last thing I should do is like throw in some huge epic surge in the event that I blow up and then have to like walk or crawl into the finish line and get past. I was like, let's just do what I can where there's no risk of blowing up. So I think that's, at that moment, winning became the priority as opposed to doing a fast time, or I dug myself deep enough in the well and maybe there was more or maybe there wasn't. I'd have to be put in a situation where I'd have to give more in order to find out.
Right. So if we kind of look at things, whenever you realize that you're actually going to win without a doubt, what was that like emotionally whenever you realized that?
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah. I wasn't really, I didn't settle in and notice it until like I rounded and maybe had 0.1 to 0.2 left. And then everyone's cheering me on and everyone's like, you got this. And then, I'm giving everyone high fives. I'm smiling. You know how I am. I'm dancing. I'm like, heck yeah, dude, this is what it's about. Cause my whole thing ever since Louisville is that the results you get are a habit. One result isn't a one-time thing. The results you get are a habit. And if you make the habit of winning, whether that's in triathlon, whether that's in life, the habits you make, they carry over. So I'm like, this isn't just a win today. This is creating the mindset and the mentality to keep winning the rest of the year.
Wow. So what was the finish shoot experience like, knowing that you're breaking the tape here? Like, the tape is yours.
It was awesome. Yeah, I've never really broken the tape before. You know, they've got this big banner, and I've only ever seen all the Ironman guys, you know, holding up the banner. And I'm like, that banner is mine today. Like, oh, it was just, yeah, it was totally great. It was awesome. And that sort of even gave me another little boost of energy for sure.
Man, so how would you wrap that feeling up into a phrase or a few words?
Oh, winning, and when you're able to win, and it's worth all the sacrifices. And that's what I've been learning the last like 6 months or a year, let's say. Like, I'd want to go out, or I'd want to drink that beer, you know, 2 weeks before, or I'd do these little things. And now, like, what I say to myself is like, I'm not going to do this because winning is going to be worth it. You know, I'm not going to drink this beer 2 weeks out because it's going to be worth it when I win. And then after I win, I can drink all the beer I want, you know, and, or whatever. That's just an example. But I do quite like beer. And so it's worth it. You make those sacrifices because the margin of winning or getting second is actually relatively small. And it's more about a mindset, I think, than physiology.
Wow. So I know you obviously break the tape, you cool down for a few minutes, and then you see number 2 come in, and then number 3 about 10 minutes after that. What were you doing in that time frame? Just hanging out, enjoying this feeling?
No, it was actually a little rushed. All the sort of local papers wanted to interview me, so they sort of corralled me into like this press area, and I had to give like 2 or 3 different journalists sort of notes and stuff on the race, which was fine. And then they brought second place there. I never saw actually third place. And then we were kind of, while we were doing that, me and second place were also talking to each other. And then I did that, and then I looked down, I'm like, oh, already 20 minutes have passed, or 30 minutes. And I was like, because remember, my girlfriend's running this race too, and I know it was important for me to be out there on the course. And I'm like, she's going to need my support. So I just say, all right, everyone, I got to go. And then I just absolutely freaking waddled out a mile on the course. Well, about 1K on the course, so that I could cheer on and jog it in with her from 1K onward. And she was actually a little bit off from her time that she wanted. And so I just sort of got the tunes going with that same speaker I have, and really sort of corralled her in. And then when she comes to the finishing chute, like, they wouldn't let me go back in the finishing chute. So then I just sort of went around and then met her back at the finish again. But that was cool. Yeah.
So even though you won the race, they wouldn't let you back in the finish chute.
Correct. Yeah. You know, stickler for rules.
Yeah. Stickler. So you got on the podium and they presented you with a bunch of wine?
Correct. Yeah. That was kind of cool.
Man. So, what else should we talk about with the race here? I mean, we talked about quite a bit from start to finish yesterday. What else are we leaving out, man?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, in general, I'd say there's just, and again, not everyone's always in a position where they can win the race. So I don't want to be over here talking like on a high horse or a high chair saying like, oh, you should always do everything you can do to win a race. Like, some people, that's not the goal, and it's for most people, it's not even a feasibility, right? But maybe winning your age group or doing that. And I think it's always the divide between doing whatever, let's just say it like this, winning for you is, and again, define that, and please, everyone, don't define that as, oh, I'm going to win the entire race. Like, because again, for most people, if you work a full-time job, whatever, et cetera, that's not a reality for you. But whatever winning is for you, and then meeting the demands of your physiology and finding some point in the middle to do both, right? And do everything you can to win, but without jeopardizing your physiology. So for example, that guy at the start is looking to run, winning for him is running a 250, right? And then he decides to go out and run the first 3/4 of a mile in 5:30, and he's already gone anaerobic. Like, he's just defeated his chances of winning by limiting his physiology right there.
Right. Man, so what is the best piece of advice that you would give someone trying to break that sub 240 barrier, both physically and mentally?
Okay, physically, here it is. First off, again, I think that physically and mentally, is 13 is warm up, 20 is halfway. And again, you need to approach that mentally, but physically you also need to basically be in check with that. And then physically, 2 tips I would give are then, I think strength training goes a long way. So really working on keeping that posture good, those glutes strong, getting in the gym sort of with functional strength training. I've done that. That's actually been the primary focus of my winter. And then I only actually did 3 weeks of specific hard-on running and then had this result. So I think that goes to show how important it is. And then, yeah, you gotta get those miles used to the loading. So just enough miles in your legs. That's physically. And then mentally, yeah, show up and really be prepared to give it all, and to fight.
And to fight for all of it.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Like try to be relaxed. The first 13, you should be totally relaxed. It's like, you're not going to war the first 13. The first 13, you're sitting in a coffee shop. You're not making friends in the coffee shop, but you're sitting in the coffee shop doing work, And then after that, you pick up the axe and you go and you chop some wood.
Wow. So really the only thing left about this race, are you going to come back next year and defend your title?
I don't know yet. It'd be fun. And I think I would. I think I'd get an entry and it'd be fun to come, but I might be in Australia or New Zealand at this time next year. So just depends on the schedule.
Right. Because Ironman New Zealand was this weekend too.
Yeah. And I might do that next year, or I'm really pretty stoked about the coast to coast race. I want to try and do that race.
What is that race?
It's in New Zealand. It's on the South Island, and you traverse from coast to coast. So across the narrow part of it in one day, and it entails like 5 different segments, and roughly the segments are run, bike, run, cut.
You broke up there. What was that last part?
Yeah. So the segments are run. It starts with like a 2K run, and then a 70-kilometer bike, and then you start with a 30-kilometer run, and then you do a 75-kilometer kayak, and then another 70 or 80K bike. The winter takes about 11 hours, so I think it would just be this epic endurance test.
Wow. That sounds like a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
Man. Well, that's all I have, man. Send me some pictures. That way I can go ahead and post this up, and we'll talk soon, man. Congratulations on your win.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Terry.
Hey, you're welcome. Have a good day, okay, man?
Okay, peace out.
You too. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you were able to learn something from today's episode. If you enjoy the show, please take a minute to leave a review on iTunes or share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to see pictures from this athlete's race, learn more about who I am, what I'm doing, or be on the show yourself to share your story, check out my website at CoachTerryWilson.com. Until next time, continue the pursuit.